and my mother reported my car stolen to teach me responsibility after I missed Sunday dinner, then let me get arrested and spend 36 hours in jail before admitting the truth. So I did this at her retirement party. I'm male, 28, honestly never thought I'd be posting here, but I'm completely lost about what to do and could use some outside perspective from people who aren't caught up in my family stuff. This is going to be long, sorry. I've been sitting on this for weeks trying to figure out what to do. So my mom, Denise, female, 62, raised me by herself after my dad bailed when I was 8. I guess I should start by saying that I know she sacrificed a lot for me, and I'm grateful for that. She worked her way up to become a school principal while raising me alone, which is pretty impressive. But she's also always been controlling, like really controlling. Growing up, she checked my homework every single night. Even in high school when I had straight A's, she had to approve all my friends, which meant I had like 2. And when college application time came around, she literally filled out half of them for me because she didn't trust me to represent myself properly. She even called my college professors a few times during my freshman year, which was basically the most humiliating thing ever. I mean, who does that? Anyway, I moved out when I was 23, later than I wanted, but I couldn't afford it earlier. She offered to help with rent, but I knew that would come with a million strings attached. I've got a decent job now as a marketing project manager at this mid-sized firm where I've been for about 4 years. Things have been going pretty well professionally, and I've been dating my girlfriend Amber, female, 26, for about 2 years. She's amazing, and honestly the first person I've dated that my mom couldn't scare away with her. Intensity. One thing that's been non-negotiable since I moved out is Sunday dinner at my mom's house. And when I say non-negotiable, I mean it. Missing one, without what she considers a legitimate reason, basically death or hospitalization, means weeks of guilt-tripping texts, passive-aggressive comments, and sometimes even showing up at my apartment unannounced to check on me because I must be going through something to miss family time. So here's where everything went to shit. Last month, I had this huge project deadline for Monday morning. My boss, Hunter, male 42, is a good guy, but he rarely gives compliments and is super selective about which clients he lets different team members handle. He specifically trusted me with this major presentation for a client we've been trying to land for months. This was basically my shot at the promotion I've been working toward for over a year. I texted my mom on Tuesday saying I might have to miss dinner that week because of work. She replied, "We'll see," which is her way of saying absolutely not. I texted again on Thursday with an update that things weren't looking good for Sunday. No response. I texted again on Saturday night saying I was still working and would definitely have to miss dinner. She finally responded with, "Family always comes first. I made your favorite pot roast. You'll be there." Sunday morning, I sent one final text. "Mom, I'm really sorry, but I can't make it today. This presentation could mean a promotion. I'll make it up to you next week, promise." Her response, "Family always comes first. I made your favorite pot roast. You'll be there." Word for word, the same text. I was annoyed, but figured she'd get over it eventually. Spoiler, she did not get over it. I spent all Sunday working, ordered takeout at like 2 a.m., crashed for a few hours, then got to the office early Monday feeling pretty good about the presentation. I had finished everything and was just doing a final review before the clients arrived at 11. Around 10 a.m., I noticed these 2 police officers walk into our open office area. Everyone's staring because, it's not exactly normal to have cops show up at a marketing firm on a Monday morning. They ask for me by name and I'm like, that's me, thinking maybe someone hit my car in the parking lot or something. They ask if I drive a blue Honda Accord and I'm like, yeah, that's mine. And they tell me it's been reported stolen. I'm completely confused because what the frick? I've had that car for years. I pull up the registration and insurance on my phone to show them and explain there must be some mistake. They check their system again and say the report was filed by Denise, my mother. I'm like, there has to be a mistake? Maybe someone stole her identity or something. I try calling her right away, but of course she doesn't answer. I explained to the officers that yes, she co-signed when I bought the car 3 years ago because my credit wasn't great, but she transferred ownership to me when I finished the payments last year. I even had the paperwork proving it in my apartment. Not that it helped me in that moment. The officers seemed uncomfortable, but said they had to follow procedure. They told me they had to take me in based on the report because my mother was claiming I took the vehicle without permission and wanted to press charges. And then they handcuffed me in front of my entire office. My boss was there. The clients had just walked in early for the presentation. Everyone was staring. I have never been so humiliated in my entire life. The whole processing experience at the police station was a nightmare. They took all my stuff, fingerprinted me, put me in this holding cell with other people. I kept trying to explain that this was a mistake, that my mom was just angry at me for missing dinner, but obviously no one believed me, because who would make up something that crazy? I tried calling Amber, but couldn't remember her number. It's just saved in my phone. Who memorizes numbers anymore? I tried my Uncle Brian, male 58, my mom's brother, and the only person who ever stands up to her, but couldn't reach him either. They assigned me some public defender who looked at my case and was completely baffled. He kept asking why my mother would report her own son's car stolen, and I couldn't even explain it in a way that made sense. I spent 36 hours in jail. 36 hours. I missed the presentation. I missed a full day of work with no explanation. I was surrounded by actual criminals. I barely slept. The food was disgusting. I was terrified. And then suddenly they're releasing me because the charges were dropped. I get my stuff back and walk outside, and guess who's waiting there? My mother, standing there like she didn't just have me thrown in jail. She had this look on her face that was like, I don't know, part sad but mostly annoyed. She started crying and told me she didn't think they'd actually arrest me, and that she just wanted the police to give me a warning about priorities and how family should always come first. She said she was just trying to teach me responsibility and didn't realize it would go this far. I thought at first she was actually sorry, but then I realized she was mostly worried about getting in trouble herself for filing a false police report. She kept worrying they might come after her and saying she didn't mean for it to be such a big deal. When I got back to work the next day, my boss Hunter was surprisingly understanding. He told me family stuff can be complicated and gave me another chance with a different client. But I found out the original client decided to go with another agency. So basically my big chance at promotion, gone. Amber has been really supportive, but there's this weird feeling now. I think she's disappointed in me for somehow letting this happen. Or maybe she's just freaked out by how crazy my family is. I don't know. I've barely spoken to my mom since then. She keeps trying to act like everything's normal, texting me about random stuff, inviting me to Sunday dinner like nothing happened. She hasn't even properly apologized, just keeps saying things like, we both overreacted, and let's put this behind us. Yesterday, I got this fancy gold-embossed invitation to her retirement party. She's retiring after 35 years as principal at her school. Now, all my extended family is blowing up my phone saying I have to attend this important milestone regardless of our little disagreement. Their words, not mine. My Aunt Lana keeps saying, she's still your mother, and family is everything, and how I need to be the bigger person. I honestly don't know what to do. On one hand, family is important to me, and I know she sacrificed a lot to raise me alone. On the other hand, she had me arrested and thrown in jail for missing dinner. Sometimes I wish I could just cut her out of my life completely. Am I crazy for even considering going to this retirement party? How do you forgive someone for something like this? Or should I just suck it up because family? Now for the first update. So it's been about 8 weeks since my last post. And holy shit, I did not expect so many responses. Thanks to everyone who commented with advice and support. And even those who called me a doormat. You weren't entirely wrong. A lot has happened, and I'm still trying to figure out how to handle this whole situation with my mom. First off, I couldn't sleep for like 2 weeks after the whole arrest thing. I just lie in bed replaying everything in my head and feeling this weird mix of anger and guilt and confusion. I was basically a zombie at work, which definitely didn't help with the whole guy who got arrested reputation I now have. Amber finally convinced me to try therapy after I had this minor breakdown over dropping a coffee mug. Like I completely lost it over a stupid mug. I was standing in the kitchen crying, and Amber just looked at me and told me she thought I needed to talk to someone who isn't her. So now I've been seeing this therapist named Vicky, female, 47, once a week for about a month and a half. She's actually really helpful and not at all what I expected therapy to be like. She doesn't just sit there nodding, she actually calls me out on stuff. Like when I was explaining how my mom must have been really hurt by me missing dinner, Vicky asked why I was making excuses for someone who had me put in jail. That kind of hit hard. One of the things we talked about in therapy was this pattern of my mom destroying things that were important to me if she didn't approve. Like, I used to collect model cars when I was a teenager. I had this whole display in my room with maybe 25 cars that I'd saved up for months to buy. Some were actually pretty valuable limited editions. I still remember this 1967 Shelby GT 500 that took me literally an entire summer of mowing lawns to afford. Anyway, I came home from school one day when I was maybe 15 and they were all gone. My mom had thrown them out during a cleaning day because they were gathering dust and childish toys that were distracting me from schoolwork, even though I had straight A's. I was devastated, but she just kept saying it was for my own good and how I'd thank her later. Edit, to the person who DM'd me asking about which specific models I had, I don't remember all of them anymore. It was like 13 years ago. But besides the Shelby, there was definitely a '69 Dodge Charger, a couple different Corvettes, and this really cool Gulf livery Ford GT40. Anyway, work has been not great. Hunter, my boss, has been decent about everything, but people definitely still whisper when I walk by. The new client presentation went okay, but I can tell I'm not getting that promotion anytime soon. My coworker Jen, female, 31, actually asked me if I had anger issues because she heard I got arrested. The retirement party invitation showed up in the mail about 3 weeks ago. It's this fancy gold card with celebrating 35 years of dedicated service, Principal Denise's retirement gala, with quotes from students and colleagues about how she changed their lives and taught them responsibility. Meanwhile, my mom has been calling me every Sunday like clockwork. I haven't been picking up, but her voicemails are a wild ride. One week she's sobbing about how much she misses me. The next she's lecturing me about how I'm blowing this way out of proportion and how the arrest was just a lesson about priorities that went too far. She still hasn't given a real apology. It's always, "I'm sorry, but," followed by some excuse. My extended family has been even worse. Aunt Lana, female, 59, calls me at least twice a week to tell me I need to be the bigger person and how my mom is devastated that I'm holding a grudge. Uncle Brian, male, 58, is actually the only reasonable one. He told me I should consider going to the retirement party, but on my own terms. Last weekend, I finally gave in and went to this family dinner at Aunt Lana's house. It was the first time I'd seen any of my family since the arrest, and God, it was awkward. The minute I walked in, Aunt Lana commented on how thin I looked and said my mother was worried sick about me. I just mumbled something about work being busy while Amber squeezed my hand. My cousin Nick, male, 31, asked about the jail thing as we were sitting down to eat, and Aunt Lana shushed him. Uncle Brian tried changing the subject to the Seahawks game, but Aunt Lana wasn't having it. During dessert, Aunt Lana asked if I was coming to my mother's retirement party. When I said I hadn't decided yet, she said my mother would be heartbroken if I wasn't there since it was the biggest moment of her career. I pointed out that I was pretty upset about being arrested and losing a client, but she cut me off saying it was just a misunderstanding and my mom never wanted to hurt me. Nick's wife Andrea, female, 30, who I've barely talked to before, suddenly defended me, saying she wouldn't speak to her mom again if she'd been arrested by her. Aunt Lana got really angry and started saying I was holding a grudge and being selfish and didn't understand all my mother had sacrificed for me. Uncle Brian finally stepped in and said everyone needed to respect my decision. I left that dinner feeling like I was taking crazy pills. Like, am I seriously the bad guy for being upset about being arrested? It made me realize that nothing is ever going to change if I just forgive and forget, like they all expect me to. My mom will just keep doing controlling stuff, and my family will keep making excuses for her. I talked to Amber about it after, and she said something that really stuck with me. She told me that if I went to the retirement party, I didn't have to pretend everything was fine while everyone celebrated my mom. It got me thinking about other possibilities. Then I found out from Uncle Brian that my mom has been telling people at her school that there was a misunderstanding with the police that got blown out of proportion. She's making it sound like some minor confusion instead of her deliberately filing a false report. I looked up the law, And what she did is actually a pretty serious crime. She could have faced charges for filing a false report. I could have lost my job permanently. My life could have been seriously messed up by what she did. So I reached out to my friend Wes, male 29, who's really good with tech stuff. We were roommates in college, and he works in IT security now. I asked him to help me gather everything: the police report, my release papers, our text exchanges, everything. He even helped me recover this voicemail where she actually admits to filing the report to teach me a lesson that I had deleted because I was so upset. I don't want to hurt my mom. I really don't. She raised me by herself, and I know that wasn't easy. But at the same time, I keep thinking about sitting in that jail cell for 36 hours, about the look on my boss's face when the police showed up, about losing that client I'd worked so hard to impress. I've talked to Vicky about healthy versus unhealthy responses to all this. She seems concerned about me doing anything too public, but I think she's worried about how it might affect my mom. I need to think about myself for once. So I've decided. I'm going to the retirement party. Amber's coming with me for support, even though she has some reservations. I'm even going to wear the exact same suit I was wearing when I got arrested. And I'm bringing evidence of exactly what kind of person my mom really is. The party is next Saturday, and my anxiety is through the roof. I've gotten all these texts from family members saying how proud my mom is that I'm coming and how this is going to heal everything. They have no idea what I'm planning. Am I taking this too far? Maybe. But I feel like for once in my life, I need to stand up to her and make sure she faces real consequences for her actions. The school community she's worked in for 35 years should know exactly who they're celebrating. Now for the second update. So I've been putting off writing this update for almost 3 months because honestly, I'm still processing everything that happened. A lot of you have been messaging me asking what happened at the retirement party and if I went through with my plan. And yeah, I did. And it was a lot. Like, I'm still not sure if what I did was right or if I went too far or what. The morning of the retirement party, I woke up feeling really sick. I was shaking and thought I might throw up. Amber found me sitting on the bathroom floor at like 7 a.m., just staring at the wall. She didn't say anything, just sat down next to me and held my hand for like 20 minutes while I tried to breathe normally. For everyone asking in my DMs, yes, Amber and I are still together. She's honestly been amazing through this whole thing, even though I've been kind of a mess. When we finally got up to get ready, Amber told me she was worried about me. She said she supported whatever I decided to do, but wanted to make sure this would help me heal instead of making things worse. I didn't really have an answer for that. I think part of me knew this was going to be messy and painful no matter what, but I felt like I had to do something, you know? I couldn't just let my mom pretend everything was fine after what she did. We got to the school around 4:30 and they went all out for this retirement party. There were huge photos of my mom throughout her career, fancy catering, flowers everywhere, and even a photographer taking pictures. They had printed programs listing all the speakers. My name wasn't on there anywhere. When we walked in, I saw my mom surrounded by about 20 people, all congratulating her. For a second, I wondered if maybe I was overreacting about everything. I wasn't, but you know how it is. Amber squeezed my hand and asked if I wanted to just attend and leave. But then my mom saw me and got super excited. She pushed through the crowd to get to me and hugged me really tight. She told me she was happy I came. I just said, "Congratulations," really quietly. She either didn't notice or ignored how uncomfortable I was. She started introducing me to everyone as my son, the marketing executive. I'm not an executive. I'm a project manager, but whatever. People kept saying how much they'd heard about me and how my mom was always bragging about me. One lady said I looked just like my mother and that she had my picture all over her office. It was weird because this was not the relationship we actually had. In private, she criticized everything I did, but apparently in public, I was this golden child she was proud of. The disconnect was making my head spin. The school board chair came over and told me my mother talked about me constantly and was so proud of everything I'd achieved. My mom looked embarrassed and said I worked very hard, just like she taught me. Then she asked if I would say a few words during the ceremony. I felt Amber tense up beside me. We hadn't planned for this, but honestly it was perfect. I just shrugged and said we'd see how the evening goes. My Uncle Brian came over and gave me this long look, then just squeezed my shoulder without saying anything. I think he knew something was up. Aunt Lana barely acknowledged me, just gave Amber this super fake smile and told me my mom was so relieved I had gotten over my little tantrum. The ceremony started, and it was a lot. Every speaker talked about how my mom was all about responsibility and accountability and high standards. One teacher actually said my mom taught an entire generation what it means to face consequences for your actions. I almost laughed out loud at that one. I texted Wes to make sure he was ready with the technical stuff. He was parked outside with his laptop connected to the school Wi-Fi and could access the projector system as soon as I gave him the signal. When my mom got up to give her speech, she talked for like 20 minutes about her career achievements and kept emphasizing how she always put family first and taught generations of children the importance of personal responsibility. She actually thanked me publicly for being understanding about all the times family took a back seat to her students. I almost choked. That's not what happened. She always put her career first and expected me to drop everything for her whenever she wanted. And then, without any warning, she ended her speech by saying I would like to say a few words. Everyone turned to look at me. Amber asked if I was sure about this. I nodded and slowly walked to that podium. Everyone was staring. My mom had this proud smile on her face. Uncle Brian looked worried. Aunt Lana looked smug. I took a deep breath when I got to the microphone. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. I started by thanking everyone for coming to celebrate my mother's career. I mentioned how they'd heard from everyone that my mother was dedicated to teaching young people about responsibility and consequences. People were nodding and smiling. My mom looked proud. I continued by saying my mother taught me my most important lesson about consequences just 4 months ago. People leaned forward, clearly expecting some nice story. I nodded toward the back door where Wes was waiting for my signal. A second later, the police report appeared on the large screen behind me. I explained that 4 months ago, I missed our weekly Sunday dinner because I was preparing for an important work presentation. My mother decided to teach me about priorities by reporting my car stolen to the police, despite the fact that the car was legally mine. There were gasps from the audience. My mom went white. I kept going, reading from the police report on the screen. I showed them my booking photo. I explained how I spent 36 hours in jail and lost a major client. Then I played the voicemail where she admitted to filing the report to teach me a lesson about priorities. The auditorium was completely silent. I said my mother taught me that some people abuse authority not to uphold responsibility, but to maintain control. My mom stood up with a pale face and told me this was completely inappropriate. I looked at her and said so was having me arrested. But that didn't stop her. I said congratulations on your retirement and walked back to my seat. The silence lasted a few seconds before everyone started whispering. Amber and I grabbed our coats and headed for the exit. Behind us, my mom was trying to regain control, saying something about a misunderstanding, but several colleagues were backing away from her. Uncle Brian followed us to the parking lot. He told me it needed to be said, but there would be consequences. Then he hugged me and went back inside. The aftermath was what you'd expect. My phone was flooded with texts and calls from family members. Half said I was a terrible son who humiliated my mother. The other half were shocked by what she did to me. My mom called me many times that night, then suddenly stopped. The weirdest part was getting messages from people I didn't even know, former students and parents who had similar experiences with my mom. One guy thanked me for exposing the truth and told me my mom had threatened to keep him from graduating over a minor dress code violation. The next few days were a roller coaster. I felt relieved, but also guilty, satisfied, but also worried. I talked to Vicky, my therapist, about whether what I did was healing or just vengeful. She didn't really give me a straight answer, but helped me process all the mixed feelings. Surprisingly, my relationship with Amber actually got stronger after all this. She told me she finally saw me stand up for myself instead of trying to please everyone else. She said she'd been worried I would always put other people's feelings above my own, even when they were hurting me. About 3 weeks after the party, I got an actual physical letter in the mail from my mom. Not a text or email or call, but a handwritten letter. And it was different from anything she'd ever said to me before. She actually acknowledged what she did was wrong, both having me arrested and her controlling behavior throughout my life. She said she wanted to talk when I was ready and understood if that was never. At first, I thought it was just another manipulation tactic, but Vicky suggested it might be genuine, especially since she wasn't demanding an immediate response or showing up at my apartment. 2 months later, I agreed to meet her at a neutral coffee shop. That conversation was intense. She told me about her own childhood with a super abusive, controlling mother I'd never heard about before. My grandmother died before I was born. She said she was terrified that without strict control, I would abandon her like my dad did. Not that it excuses what she did, but it helped me understand some of her behavior. We're not close now, and maybe we never will be again. But we've established some new boundaries. No mandatory events, no unexpected demands, and a mutual agreement that any further violation of trust means permanent estrangement. I still struggle with contradictory feelings about everything. Sometimes I think I went too far with the public revelation. Other times, I think it was the only way she would ever truly understand the impact of her actions. I don't know if I'll ever fully resolve those feelings, but our relationship, while not what she wanted, is slowly becoming something healthier for both of us. She actually asks before giving advice now. She respects when I say I'm not available for Sunday dinner. She's even started seeing a therapist herself. I guess sometimes the most loving thing you can do for family is establish consequences, even when it's painful for everyone involved.